بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين على من تبع هداهم إلى يوم الدين. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, passing salutation upon His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I know that the treble is really low because of that microphone. I don't know if it's really audible properly to the sisters because I'm going to be most of the talking. If you just lower the sound and put the treble, not comfortable with my sound. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Much better. The etiquettes of going to the toilet. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught us everything. As Salman al-Farsi had said, he taught us everything, even how to clean yourself when you relieve yourself. So the Deen of Islam takes you from A to Z. It's a system. It teaches you how to purify yourself in order to be a person ready for your ibadah. And those etiquettes, the ones which are very important, is the one that would lead to the invalidation of that purification. But these etiquettes here is most of it to do with not pillars, but it's to do with etiquettes, meaning which is what is preferred to do, what is preferred and what is disliked or haram to do. But it's nothing to do with, for example, that if you don't do that, your wudu will be invalid, or your purification will be invalid. So the etiquette, the first one is saying that you say Bismillah, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika. I'm going to say it in Arabic, al-khubuth wal-khabaith, or min al-khubthi wal-khabaith. There is either on the ba sukun, jazm, khubth, or khubuth, which is with a dhamma. The difference between khubth and khubuth is al-khubth means impurity, and khubuth is the plural of shaitan, female shaitan. So al-khubuth, female shaitan, and khaba'ith is the plural. So al-khubuth is the single form of the female jinn. So both of them want to be correct. So al-khubuth or al-khubth is correct. So you are asking the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the evil and also from the impurities, from the shaitan and from the impurities. So here, the two hadith which I mentioned, number one, which says that if you are trying to take off your clothes, for verily, the best way of blocking the vision of the jinn whom we don't see to see us is by saying Bismillah. So if you take off your clothes in the toilet, once you say Bismillah, and this jinn, and he says the female jinn, because the female jinn, just like the female human being, they are as well having lust, same thing. So we don't want them to have lust or to ask to see our awrah. So we say Bismillah, straight away there will be a barrier between us and those jinn. And after that you say, Allahumma, I seek refuge in you, O Lord, A'udhu min al-khubthi wal-khabaith, from the male and the female shaitan. So, also in the hadith, which is hadith in Sunan Abi Dawood, on the authority of Zayd ibn Arqam, radiyallahu anhu, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Inna hadihi al-hushush, verily when you go and relieve yourself into the open space, where there is, for example, either long plants to cover you, all of that, قال إن هذه الحشوش الكنف محتضرة, it's full of shayateen. فإذا أتى أحدكم الخلاء, if one of you come to these places, then let him say أعوذ بالله من الخبث والخبائث. أعوذ بالله من الخبث والخبائث. Second etiquette, please.
Number two, upon leaving the place, it is recommended to say, I seek your forgiveness.
I say غفرانك. غفرانك means I seek your forgiveness. Before, yes, you finished? Yes.
Aisha radiallahu anha said, when the Prophet ﷺ would leave from the place of relieving oneself, he would say, I seek your forgiveness.
Right. Before I go to the explanation of this, first of all, let me tell you that when you come into the toilet or in the open space, the word Bismillah is to be said once you take in your clothes. So once you want to relieve yourself, when you take your clothes off, you say Bismillah. So that is why I mentioned the hadith, that is when you want to take off your clothes, you say what? Bismillah. And you're going to ask me, can I say Bismillah in that toilet? Yes. You're not really doing it. You're only not allowed to say it once you start what? Doing it, whether it is the urination or passing feces. But before that, you say Bismillah. And number two question, before you question me as well, that is you say it in the Arabic. You don't say the name of Allah. Say Bismillah. This is adhkar. Okay? Unless the person doesn't know it. How to say it. And you say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubthi wal khabath. All of it adhkar, you mention him as the Prophet said. So you don't say, I'll seek refuge in you, O Lord, from the female and male shaitan. Okay? You say al-khubuth wal khabath. Sorry, by the way, I think I mistranslated. Al-khubuth is the plural of the shayateen males, and khabath is the plural female of the shayateen. Now coming to the second one, which is as soon as you finish, you say ghufranak. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he says regarding this issue that when the person had relieved himself from the pain of, when you go and pass feces and all of that, or even if you urinate, as soon as you finish that, you're asking Allah Azza wa Jalla, just like He relieved you from the pain of passing feces, to relieve you also from the sins, because they're painful as well. So ghufranak is to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness, and is because of that you have relieved from the pain, you relieve yourself from the pain of the sins. Now,
number 3, it is also recommended to enter the place first with one's left foot, and to step out first with one's right foot. This is in keeping with the principle of beginning noble things with the right and non-noble acts with the left, for which there is a general evidence.
The general evidence, I'm going to say it to you, it is actually an evidence of Anas radiallahu anhu talking about the masjid. He says it is from the sunnah when you enter the masjid, you enter with the right. From that athar, which is athar fi hukm al-marfu', that means like the Prophet of Allah said, he says when the companion says from the sunnah, then it is like upgraded, means like from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because once the companion says it is from the sunnah, it's like the Prophet of Allah said it. So min al-sunnah, to enter the masjid with the right. The scholars deducted from that by qiyas analogy, that is the masjid is the best of the places. You enter with what? With your right. So the toilet is the worst of places. You enter with what? With the left. So you enter with the left because of the analogy, because the qiyas onto that athar of Anas radiallahu anhu wa ardah. You start with your left when you enter, and when you come out with the right. And the masjid, you enter with the right, and you come out with what? With what? With the left. What about if you enter your house?
Right.
No. No right, no left. So don't stop now. And so before you enter the house, I'm going to go to the right. You could go with the right, you could go with the left, you could go with your hands inside if you want to be sure. First, before your legs. So no problem with the house. It's only the masjid or the toilets. Toilets, go to the left. The masjid, you go with the right. Coming out, you come out from the masjid with your left. And you come out with from the toilet, because the opposite, with the right. Number 4.
Number 4, in open spaces such as the desert, it is recommended to go such a distance that one is not seen. Jabir said, when we went with the Messenger of Allah on a journey, and whenever he wished to relieve himself, he would go away until he could not be seen.
Right, this is relieving yourself, meaning passing feces. As for the urination, the Prophet of Allah used to urinate, sometimes standing up, and the companion will be next to him. He's giving him his back, and he will be behind him to help him to give him the wudu, the water. But the passing of the feces, it will involve bad smell. It will involve passing wind and sound and obnoxious sounds. That is why the Prophet ﷺ, he would go so that nobody can see him, nobody can hear him, nobody can smell what comes out of him. And that shows us as well the Prophet ﷺ thesis is not like the Prophet ﷺ's sweat. The sweat of the Prophet of Allah was taken into what? The perfume. She took it, Sulaym radiallahu anha, and put it in the perfume of her children. That's the sweat. So the sweat of the Prophet of Allah, the saliva of the Prophet of Allah, the phlegm of the Prophet ﷺ, the cough up of the Prophet of Allah, that's pure, and the companions used to take it and rub their faces with it. But when the spittle, everything to do with the Prophet ﷺ, including the Prophet of Allah, spat into the eyes of Ali ibn Abi Talib and he cured him. So he spat in the eye of the Prophet of Ali ibn Abi Talib when he was in the Battle of Khaybar. He spat in his eye because he had an eye infection and he cured him. But the faces of the Prophet of Allah is not. And that is why he used to go up far, so nobody can smell him. It shows that he's a human being. Prophet of Allah ﷺ is a human being. The only difference between the Prophet and the prophets and us, all the prophets, is number one, that they are immune, or you could say infallible, against major sins. Like they don't do in shirk or fornication or stealing and all of that major sins. Number two, they have revelation. That means revelation comes to them. Apart from that, they're human beings. They forget like we forget, they make mistakes like we make mistakes, small mistakes, no, same thing. Prophet ﷺ, when he told us this, we could still use it here. So if you have a choice between a toilet, where it is a box completely sealed to pass your feces in, or a place where, unfortunately, the toilet these days, you have about good foot from down, showing. So, and good foot from the top. So anything that you do is being noticed by the ones who are next to you. And you don't feel shy. Maybe you don't feel shy. You feel shy at the beginning, but later on you don't feel shy. Doesn't matter because you lose your shyness. Your modesty is gone. Well, that's not right. And especially if the floor is wet, you could see the reflection of the person from underneath. Because, as I said, it's about 1 foot, proper foot, gap between the ground and between that barrier, the separator. And that's not right. So if you have an option, to when you build a masjid, make sure you build it with the toilets what? Fully sealed. It's a box, your own box. Soundproof. And smell-proof. It's for you. And that's the people will be relaxed. I don't relax to do it in the toilet except in the disabled. The disabled are completely sealed. Disabled people, mashallah, they got everything. The best parking, the best toilets, the best showers, the best... I almost wish it to be a disabled man. You go to the town, there's disabled car parking, there's all of it, most of it empty. And we are suffering to look for a place. I mean... Okay, but it's not fair. It's not fair. Now.
Number 5. It is also recommended that one not raise one's clothing until one is close to the ground. Ibn Umar radiallahu anh said, when the Prophet ﷺ wished to relieve himself, he would not raise his garment until he was close to the ground.
And that is, of course, in the open space. But if you're in the toilet, as soon as you lock your door, it doesn't matter what you do there, in terms of taking the clothes straight away before you pass feces or not. It's just because if you're in the open space, to minimize the chance of somebody spotting you or, seeing your aura. That's why you don't really lift up your garment or take off your clothes until you're really next to the ground so nobody can see you. So you don't do it when you're standing up. Or when you're in the toilet, it's no problem. Now.
Number 6. It is not allowed to face or have one's back to the Qibla, either while in the desert or in a building. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu anh narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, if you go to relieve yourself, do not face or put your back to the Qibla upon urinating or defecating. Instead, face the east or the west. Abu Ayyub stated, when we came to Asham, we found the bathrooms within the buildings facing the Qibla. So we turn ourselves away and ask Allah for forgiveness.
Right. This point is actually as well is controversial among the scholars. And the correct opinion was what the scholar here had said. It is not allowed to face the Qibla or to turn your back to the Qibla, whether you are in the open space or inside the buildings. Scholars who differ, they say if it's only in the open space you don't do that, but if it's inside the toilet, there's no problem, which is not true. And it's incorrect. For verily the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, if you come to relieve yourself, and he just generalized. So do not face the Qibla, nor you turn your back to the Qibla, but go east or west. Go east or west if you are in the same direction of Medina to Mecca, because Medina is in the north of Mecca. So when you go east and west, you don't go north or south, it's no problem. But you don't go to east and west, for example, if you are in India. If you go east and west, either you're going to face the Qibla, or your back will be towards the Qibla. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So if you are in Egypt, you don't go east and west. You go north or south. Because Egypt is to the western side of Mecca. Same thing with India. It is into the eastern side of Mecca. Pakistan, same thing. You go north or south. So east and west because Medina is lying onto the north of Mecca. So if you go east and west, that's you are 180 degrees away from it. And if you go south, you go to Mecca. If you go north, then you're going to be turning back to Mecca, which is not allowed. Now, what is the opinions of the other people, of the other scholars who said it's allowed if it's in the not in the open space? What is that their opinion to say? What is the proof for that? The proof for that is one which is unauthentic and one which is authentic. The unauthentic is that there's a hadith that the people came to the Prophet of Allah and Aisha, the Messenger of Allah, that people who are worried to face the Qibla, so they go to east and west. So the Prophet of Allah, he said, make my potty, which I believe himself in, make my potty when my back is towards the Qibla. And that hadith is unauthentic. How can the Prophet of Allah would refute such an argument with such a tone? Because the Prophet of Allah is always merciful. He would not say, what are these people they're talking about? Turn my potty towards the Qibla. He would not do that like that. He would not prove a point of somebody's wrong in that sense, or in that manner. It's not the Prophet of Allah. And that's why Shaykh al-Albani used to say that this hadith is munkar. It's not just da'if, meaning it's like it cannot be attributed to the Prophet of Allah. The second hadith, which is authentic, hadith Abdullah ibn Umar, whom he had climbed on top of the roof of his sister's house, and that is Hafsa. And the Muslims are the first people to take their toilets inside their houses, you know that. English people, not a long time ago, they used to have their bathrooms and toilets were away from their houses. So, you have to travel to it. It's inside the fence, but it's far. It's only the Muslim who had made these houses, including the toilets. So when the Prophet of Allah had their toilets and the bathing places inside their houses, so in the top, you could hardly find sometimes, especially when you relieve yourself, there is a roof there. Or if it's a roof, it's not a see-through proof. You could see through it. So he climbed on top of his sister's house, Abdullah ibn Umar, young boy, and he looked, and he saw the Prophet ﷺ urinating, facing Bilad al-Sham. That means his back will be where? Towards what? Towards Kaaba. Because Bilad al-Sham is in the north. Do you understand that? Bilad al-Sham is in the north. So if he's in the north, his back will be to the Kaaba south. From that athar, those scholars, they said, if you are inside the toilet, it's no problem. If you are in the open space, you're not allowed to turn towards the Qibla or your back towards the Qibla. The way to tackle this is that, now, who had seen the Prophet of Allah doing this? Abdullah ibn Umar. Did the Prophet of Allah see Abdullah ibn Umar looking at him? No. When the Prophet of Allah says a saying to the people, this is a saying, if you come to relieve yourself, do not face the Qibla, nor you turn your back to the Qibla, but go east and west, that is because of Medina. He says it to the people in general. And then something had happened in the toilet where he had himself turned back his back to the Qibla. This is an action or a saying? Action. Put as a principle. Sayings takes precedence over what? Why? Because sayings is generalized. Or actions, it could be for a specific matter or reason. That's a principle. Always sayings takes precedence over actions. Otherwise, you make a hadith conflict with one another and you can't really come up with a decision. Number two, that action of the Prophet of Allah hasn't been seen by the companions. Only one person. And if it was important action, the Prophet of Allah, he would not just tell or show Abdullah ibn Umar, he would show everybody. So we leave what Abdullah ibn Umar had seen is for him. And we go with the sayings of the Prophet of Allah, which is for the general ummah. Don't face the Qibla when you urinate or pass the feces, and don't turn your back to it. The other hadith, or the other athar, which is Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, when he came to Bilad al-Sham, he said that there are toilets already being built, like in England, because they don't know about Qibla and Qibla or Jerusalem. They don't care about these things. So for us, we do. So the toilets were already built towards the Qibla. So he says, فَنَنْحَرِفُ عَنْهَا. So when we pass our feces, we don't really face it or turn our back to it. We tilt ourselves. This is the thing that you're going to do if your toilet is being built towards what? Okay. So you just, when you sit down on it, you tilt a bit. Tilting a bit, just a little bit, straight away you go to another country. Do you understand me? Just a little bit, you might go to Sudan or Egypt. I'm not saying it's halal to do that to Sudanese. Or Algeria. But I'm just saying, you're not allowed to face the Kaaba or to turn your back to the Kaaba. That's it. So just a slight tilt, and that's it. قال وكنا نستغفر الله. We seek forgiveness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The toilets are being built towards the Kaaba. Number 7.
Number 7, it is forbidden to leave oneself in the path of the people or in the places of shade. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, avoid the acts causing cursing. They asked, what are the acts causing cursing? O Messenger of Allah, he replied, it is the one who leaves himself in the path of the people or in the places of shade.
We're going to add also to that, the places that you're not allowed to urinate or pass feces is water sources. Like people use this water to fetch water from and drink from. So you are urinating in the Prophet of Allah, he said, اتقوا الملاعن الثلاث. That is, avoid the 3 places which will incur cursing. Number 1, he said, in the shade of the people. Meaning like you come to a tree, nice tree. Well, people use it for picnic and to shade themselves. They come to the tree and they find a big, massive brown thing there, which is, feces of poo. So what are they going to say? May Allah curse them, that one who's done it. So they incur a curse upon him. Or you come to a route or a path, a footpath, and somebody brings his own feces, or he makes his dog pass feces on that. You're going to say, may Allah curse the one who had let his dog or himself to pass feces in this path. So that is bringing as well the sources of water. The sources of water. Number 8.
Number 8. It is disliked to urinate in one's bathing place. Humayd al-Himyari said, I met a man. Al-Himyari said, I met a man who accompanied the Prophet ﷺ like Abu Hurairah accompanied him. And he said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ prohibited that one should comb our hair daily, or that one should urinate in his bathing place.
Right. Now, this is if your bathing place has no drainage. But the bathing places like these days, where, for example, you're having a shower and urinate where the shower is and the water goes in, and there's no problem with that. Of course, not passing feces, I'm talking about urination. So the drainage, if it's so the only which is not allowed, if the bathing thing, it does not change, the water stays the same. That's why you're not allowed. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, لا يبولن أحدكم في مستحمه ثم يغتسل فيه. No one is to urinate in where he bathes himself in it, and then he has bathed himself. That means urinate in the water where he's going to bathe himself with, and then he bathes himself with. It's not allowed. Even if that water is a lot, and it's not going to be affected with his urination, he's not supposed to urinate in his place where he has a bath or washes himself. Now.
Number 9, it is forbidden to urinate in stagnant water. Jabir radiallahu anh narrated from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that he sallallahu alayhi wasallam prohibited urinating in stagnant water.
Stagnant water means water which does not change. So, like for example, a swimming pool or a pond where the water does not change, it's still there. But to urinate into something which is like sea, where water comes in it and all, that's no problem. Okay? I wouldn't really advise you to pass feces while you're swimming in the sea, but I'm just saying, and I'm recording this as well. One day we were in a picnic, a trip, me and some friends who came to my country to visit there in Jordan. I took them to the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is an area where it's called Dead Sea because the water is absolutely dead. There's no animal there. The peculiar thing about that water, number one, it is the lowest point in the whole of the face of the earth. Lowest point. There's no lower point than the Dead Sea. Number two, the sea itself is salty so much that if you swim in it and some of the water goes into your eyes, you've had it. You have to really be patient. And number three, you don't drown, but you might drown by swallowing water. But to go inside the sea and to go down, it will not. The water will lift you up. So you don't do anything. You just put your hands behind your back and you're like on a mattress, basically. That's how condensation of the water, subhanAllah, so condensed. Number 4 is that there is no beach for that. As soon as you come in, straight away you feel that there is nothing underneath you. So 3 steps, there's nothing underneath you. It's like, and you don't know because you can't see. It's really thick layer of salt, so salty. You've got skin disease is the best place. When I took them there, of course there are rocks and and mountains which is surrounding this place. This brother, he says to me, and it's open, lots of rocks, and he says to me, well, I want to relieve myself. Well, can I do that? And he's got used to the public toilets there in England. Wherever you go, there's public toilets. But we don't have that like this. I said, this place, subhanAllah, it's not enough for you to, relieve yourself. You could do it in the sea. And I said that as a joke. Do it in the sea. So what he did, he went to the sea without me knowing. And the brother is shouting, look. This guy in the middle there, he is doing it. He's passing feces in the sea. Now because of the sea's Dead Sea, the feces itself, well, on top of the sea. It didn't go inside. This is the mentality of some of the people who are not Arab like that. Allah understand. Tayyib. Right, we understand now what's the meaning of this. Number 10.
Number 10, it is permissible to urinate while standing, but to do so sitting is preferred.
So, urinating standing up, it is not disliked. It is permissible, but there's 2 conditions here. Number 1, your aura is not exposed to the people, so people can see you. Number 2, you are safe against the bouncing back of the urination. Because when you're standing up, urination is going to be on the ground, and the ground is hard. So the distance between your urination and the ground is going to be a lot, and that will be bouncing back with the same strength, and you will get yourself impure. Impurity is going to go into your clothes. So we say there's 2 conditions there. Number 1, your aura is not to be exposed. Number 2 is not to bounce back. Otherwise, it is allowed. Let's go to the hadith of Hudayfa.
Hudayfa said, I was with the Prophet ﷺ and he went to the garbage dump of the people and urinated while standing. I moved away and he said, "Come closer." I came closer until I stood behind him, and he then made ablution and wiped over his slippers. We said that sitting is preferred because that was the Prophet's most common practice. In fact, Aisha radiallahu anha even said, if someone tells you that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam urinated while standing, do not believe him. He would only urinate while sitting. This statement of hers does not negate what Hudayfa radiallahu anhu said, as she reported what she had seen, while Hudayfa narrated what he saw. It is known that one who affirms something takes precedence over one who negates an act, as the first has some additional knowledge.
Let's underline that as a principle. المثبت مقدم على النافي أو من علم حجة على من لا يعلم. That's a principle, says the person who knows has more priority to be taken his words than the one who does not know. من يعلم حجة على من لا يعلم. And the المثبت مقدم على the one who says there is, he confirms and affirms, he takes precedence over the one who negates. I'll give you an example. If two people were trustworthy, truthful people came out of this hall, out, and another person coming from outside and asked them the following question. Did you see, let's say Brother Yasser, not to everybody, did you see Yasser inside the hall? One of them said yes, and one of them said, no, I did not see him. Which one should that person take as the correct statement? The one who said yes, or the one who said no, regardless of that Yasser is here or not? Both of them are trustworthy, they're not lying. The one who's what? Because the one who said no, why? Maybe he didn't see him, that's all. He came inside, he didn't see him. He was looking somewhere else, and he did not see him. So the one who said yes, affirms, takes precedence, priority over the one who says no, negates. من يعلم حجة على من لا يعلم. So here, Aisha radiallahu anha, what she narrated, that she said, if anybody tells you the Prophet of Allah urinated standing up, don't believe him, he's a liar. Ali ibn Abi Talib, other companions narrated the Prophet of Allah urinated standing up. Even Ali ibn Abi Talib used to urinate standing up. So, urinating standing up is being narrated, and we say that Aisha does not say wrong, she's not a liar, nor Hudayfa is a liar. Both of them correct, but she does not go with the Prophet of Allah outside when he urinates. She narrates what she had seen in the Prophet of Allah inside her house. And also from that, Aisha and the wives of the Prophet of Allah are allowed to see their husbands, and husbands see their wives if they are on the toilet, because she had seen him doing it. That means he was sitting, he would get what? Sitting down. She could see him. And then remember, in the houses there of theirs, it's not really, as I said, proper doors and proper ceilings and proper roofs and all of that. Number 11.
Number 11, it is obligatory to keep clean of the urine. Ibn Abbas narrated the Prophet ﷺ passed by two graves whose inhabitants were being punished. He said they are being punished, but they are not being punished for a great matter. As for one of them, he did not keep himself clean of his urine, and as for the other, he used to spread tales among the people to cause harm.
Right, so cleaning yourself from the urine is very important. So you need to make sure that your private part, whether male or female, is washed after urination. So it is washed, or using the stones or the tissues. All of them are allowed. If you use stones, it has to be 3 stones. Tissues, it doesn't matter the number, as long as you get it clean. The water is the best. Now, it's very important to use that system of, as well, sprinkling water into your pants, just to get rid of the waswasa. If anything there, you will not be thinking it is the urine, and then you'll be in waswasa, am I pure or not pure? Just sprinkle water into the pants. So this is a very important issue, to such an extent that the Prophet of Allah passed by 2 graves, and he said, verily they are being punished. and they're not being punished in something that the people deem to be very big thing. All of them, they say it is nothing, but it's actually something. So here, the punishment of the grave is something, but what was the reason for it? Why was he being punished? You see, the number one of them, he did not clean himself after urination. Second one is to, do namima. Namima is slandering. Is it slandering?
Gossip.
What does it say?
Gossip.
No, gossiping, okay. Yes, you could gossiping, namima, to slander people, yes, to gossip, spread things between the people. Namam, carries news from this person to that person to cause
harm, yeah.
fitna. Huh?
It's to cause harm.
To cause harm, that's right. That's the namam. Now the Prophet ﷺ, in that hadith, he asked for the palm fronds, Sa'f al-Nakhil, to be put into that grave. So he asked for the palm fronds and he put it, and he said maybe that green, fresh palm frond would belittle or would decrease the punishment of the grave as long as they are fresh. Now, first of all, this is only for the Prophet of Allah, because we see some of the graves now these days, they're stuck with palm fronds. They think, let me decrease the punishment of the grave on my relative here. Well, how do you know that your relative's in pain or in punishment? It's only the Prophet of Allah who had, when he passed by the two graves, Allah told him. So it's not for us to go and put fronds. Why? Because the companions did not do that. They did not start putting, palm fronds into their graves in order to get their punishment of the graves to be decreased. It's not right. Or some people they put flowers these days. All of that is not from the Sunnah. It's against the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Right. So this person who urinates and then, they juggle it about like that and they just put it in the trousers and they leave. And they don't even wash their hands. That's not right, actually. The drops of urine are going to come inside your toilet and inside your pants. So you should wash it. And I use this as well to tell you that urinals are the best to urinate for standing up. But as long as you don't show your aura. So if you're the urinals in the public toilets, there's nobody there, it's the best thing for you urinating standing up. Why? Because it does not bounce back. But you need to have something to clean it with. Water, tissues. Okay? So that's the best thing. The other extreme, which we find some people they do it, that how they stop the urination. These are the people who got waswasa. So after they urinate, you hear them in the toilet jumping up and down. Okay? Because they want to get rid of the urine inside them. Or start milking, or pressing, or even smacking. It's not a joke, But that's what happened. The person comes with shouting, and some of them even sometimes makes a sound. And he spends about half an hour in the toilet. Why? He's trying to clean himself. So the Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, the private part of the male is similar in terms of mechanism-wise of dripping, like the breast of the woman. The milking of the woman is long. When you milk it will come out. Same thing with the male organ. If you keep milking, it will come out. So if you leave it, will what? Stop. So you don't have to worry about after it stops and you clean it. You don't have to worry to take off your pants and look if there's something coming out or not. Okay. Some people they go to the extreme. They really went to the toilet once of somebody, and I found that the toilet of his is padded with tissues all over. From the inside, it's being put tissues. So when he urinates, it lands on soft something because he feels that there's something that bounced back. And when he feels something's bounced back, we won't wash it. And when we wash it, that water bounces back. So he keeps washing, more and more, and he ends up having a shower. He comes out of the toilet, all of it has been washed. I feel miskin. This is a poor person. SubhanAllah. I feel pity for these people. To the extent that we have in the stories of, the person who was waswasa, he wants to feel the water. He wants to feel the water. So what he does, he washes himself with extremely cold water or extremely hot water in order to feel that water had gone into that place or that spot. So somebody came to the great scholar Ibn al-Jawzi, who had put the book Talbis Iblis, what the shaitan does to you. In his book, he said a person came to him to ask him, I'm a person who want to make the prayer. I want to make wudu. So I go and jump in the freezing pond. You know, freezing pond? I jump in the freezing pond and I come out of it. Is that enough for me to make wudu? You want to understand, because he jumps into the one freezing pond. Why? Because he wants to feel the water going to every inch of his body. Is that enough for wudu, he says, for the Imam? He said, there is no salah upon you. I'm asking for the wudu. He said, no, you don't have to do salah. Why? He said, because you are insane. Insane, there is no salah on them until you become sane. So that's what the waswasa will take you outside the religion. And by this, I would mention to you that once I was in a takeaway shop and I was eating my meal, and somebody just came from nowhere and sat in front of me. And when you want to eat your meal, you don't like it, you don't feel comfortable. Somebody's in front of you, and he's got a big beard. And I don't know if I mentioned this story before or not. And big beard, and he sat in front of me. He said, I have seen you in TV, I have seen you. Can I ask you a question? Wallahi, he started crying. Wallahi. I had to leave my meal now, I could just go listen to him. He said, I've got waswasa. I can't get rid of it. I need help. I don't know what to do. Every time I put to the prayer, lots of thoughts comes into my mind. I don't do. Do you do the prayer? You know, big beard and a thobe and a hat, and you will call a sheikh, mashallah, proper sheikh. But he doesn't do his prayers because of this waswasa. It's driving him mad. Every time he wants to make wudu, it takes hours. So he misses about 2-3 prayers before he finishes wudu. So the waswasa, it destroys you if you don't follow these etiquettes. So I started mentioning to him what he should do, and how not to follow these traces of shaitan that he's throwing for him, and what to do with his pants, and what he has to do. I mentioned to him a number of issues, and I said to him, inshallah, this will work. And ista'in billah, ask Allah, the best thing. Ista'in billah, ask Allah's help. For verily we know in the books, the waswasa made people to leave their deen. That's it, stop the deen, khalas. Because when you stop the deen, the shaitan will leave him, that's it, goes another customer. So he'll feel relaxed, I'm cured. Now you see what after the deen? And that is why when Abdullah ibn Abbas, the Jews came to him, you know, we don't have waswasa in our prayer. He said, well, the shaitan got no business with you guys. He's got no business with you guys. Because you're empty from the iman. So why you want to give for somebody else? That's why we don't have waswasa. And that is why when the companions came to the Prophet and said, Messenger of Allah, sometimes there is something there comes to our mind, we can't really even mention it. So bad. He said, did it come to you? He said, yes, Messenger. The Prophet was happy now. So to be upset, he's happy. Did it come to you? He said, yes, Messenger. He said, this is the clear sign of Iman. If you got Iman, shaitan will attack you with these thoughts. If you haven't got Iman, why should you do anything to you? He'll leave you. So the person who is got waswasa, once he leaves his prayer, there will be no waswasa. Khalas. Shaitan is not going to go business with him. Look for another customer. Subhanallah. So, inshallah, make dua for that brother whom you don't know. I don't know him as well. Make dua for him, inshallah. Make it relax for him. Go to number 13, 14, is that 13? 12.
Number 12, the person should not hold his private part with his right hand while urinating, nor should he clean it with his right hand. Abu Qatada narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when one of you urinates, he is not to hold his private part with his right hand, and he should also not clean his private part with his right hand.
So when he says the hold, that means the male. For the female, they're not allowed to touch with their right hand their private parts. Uthman radiallahu anhu said, since I had given the pledge to the Prophet ﷺ for Islam, and here in this hadith, he said, مَا مَسَّتْ يَمِينِي ذَكَرِي. My right hand never touched my private part. Alas. So when you want to clean yourself, so for example, using let's say using the lota, we call it the container. Okay, so you put water in it. Now, how do you wash? You wash with your what? With your left. And you hold the water with what? With your right. That's how you do it. You don't hold with the right. Don't hold with the right. Don't hold your private part with the right. Right is made for honorable things. Eating food. Okay? Eating the food. And even making siwak. Okay? Shaking the hand of the people. The left is for the unhonorable things. Like, for example, stinger. Okay? Like washing the private parts. Now, so here, the person is not allowed, but if he has no left hand, he'll use his right hand. If you've got no left hand, he'll use his right hand. Or his left has something wrong with it, he could use his right hand, inshallah. No problem, inshallah. Now.
Number 13, it is permissible to clean the private part with water, stone, or similar items. However, to use water is best. Anas radiallahu anhu narrated the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would go to relieve himself, and I and a young boy would carry a leather water skin of water and a spare, and he would wash his private part with water. Aisha radiallahu anha narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, if one of you goes to relieve himself, he should take with him 3 stones and clean himself with them, as those will suffice him.
Right, this is another point regarding the issue of how to wash yourself. You could use all of this together. You could use the water with the stones with the tissues. No problem, as long as you don't do it because of ibadah. You're doing it because of what? Cleanliness. So you clean yourself with the stone plus the water plus the tissues. No problem. As long as you're not thinking this is more ibadah or more rewarding. So you could do it with the stones. And if you do it with the stones, it has to be 3 stones. If it's water, make sure it's clean. If it's the tissues, make sure it's clean. Number 14. And here, yes, we finished that. Number 14. Now.
Number 14. It is not permissible to use less than 3 stones. Salman al-Farisi radiallahu anhu said, it was said to him, your Prophet teaches you everything, even how to defecate. He replied, certainly, he has prohibited us from facing the Qibla while defecating or urinating, from cleaning the private parts with the right hand, from cleaning with less than 3 stones, and from cleaning by using dung or a bone.
Dung or a bone, we've talked about that before. Which they don't purify. And also they are the fodder of the jinn, animals and the jinn themselves. So the fodder of the animals are for the fodder of the animals of the jinn. Food of the people, food for the jinn. Number 15.
Number 15. It is not allowed to wipe with bones or dung. Jabir radiallahu anhu said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam prohibiting wiping with a bone or dung.
Right, we've done that. Alhamdulillah, we talked about it. Let me now go through my own points and read them for you, and let's see if we can add. Okay, so whatever is not in your points, please tell me. Okay, whatever is not in your points, tell me this is the next one. Right, the ones I've collected here. Number 1. Number 1 is not there anyway, so I'm just okay. Number 1, it is not proper to carry something that has Allah's name unless being afraid of losing it or having it stolen. So don't carry something that's got Allah's names, which is showing. Like for example, carry a Quran and you relieve yourself. But if it's inside your bag, it's no problem, as long as it's not showing. And that's the question as well regarding the phones, the mobiles got Qurans. No problem. If you use a mobile, as long as the mobile is not showing the page of the Quran. Don't leave it outside, people will nick it. So you take it inside and make sure it's not the page showing the page. Number 2, when you are relieving yourself in the open space, hide from others. We've done that, yes? so others cannot hear the noxious sounds or smell bad odors. Okay. 3, when urinating in the open space, it is permissible to have someone next to you. That's not there, is it? New one. It is permissible to have someone next to you, shielding or aiding you, providing that he does not see your awrah. You should not laugh. Number 4, if you hear someone passing wind, as the Prophet ﷺ forbade this. So if somebody passed wind in the toilet and you heard him, you should not make laugh. And this is when the person, as I said to you, he will be scared to make what? Passing wind, because other people are going to laugh at him. Number 5, and I think this is mentioned, to say Bismillah, entering with the right foot, we mentioned that. Taking off your clothes as well when you reach the ground, we talked about that. Another point, you should not talk while relieving, unless it is necessary. You know, I found one day, you come to the toilet, these 2 guys are urinating in the urinals, and they're having chit-chat. They're enjoying it. Chit-chat while they're urinating together. They're next to each other, and, oh, I've seen him, yeah, hello, yeah. SubhanAllah. What a time to chit-chat. So you should not talk while relieving unless it is necessary. So you should not sing like some people do. You should not respond to greeting or talk unnecessarily. Number 9, you may not mention Allah's name in any form while relieving. You cannot say Bismillah or La ilaha illallah or Allahu Akbar when you are relieving yourself, whether you are passing feces or urinating. Okay, we'll leave 10 out. We've said it. 11. Okay. We've said it. It is the slide 2. Okay. It is disliked to use a hole in the ground when urinating. You know when you go outside? For example, in the rocks, you find a hole. Don't use that, because it could be a place of jinn. So don't use, or it could be a snake. Something will come out of the hole. Do you understand me? So don't use these holes to urinate in them. Of course, the hole in the toilet, no problem. That's where you're going to do it anyway. Part of urination. It is permissible to use a pot for urinating whenever it is needed. Like, you're falling sick, cold weather. So use a potty. Prophet used to have a potty. Puts it underneath the bed of his. But in this case, you should always clean the potties from the urine as soon as possible. So this implies as well to the toilet of yours, flush it straight away after use. The angels of mercy do not enter a house where the urine is kept in potties or containers. Look at that. Angels of mercy. So there's a toilet which is not being flushed. It's not being flashed. You change the water, the angels will not come. Of course, the angels of mercy, not the angels that write your deeds. They're going to go with you wherever you are. I've read in one of those books that belong to Jama'ah, one of the Jama'at which are deviant Jama'at. They're telling their people, subhanAllah, telling ignorant people. He's saying that, I've read in the book, it says, when you are in the toilet, don't talk. Otherwise, you're going to bring the angels who write your deeds inside the toilet. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you talk, they're going to write for you or against you. So he thinks that as soon as you go to the toilet, the angel sits, on the outside, waiting for you. That's what he thinks. That's in the book. Waiting for you until they come out, and then they will come start recording for you. Otherwise, they're not with you. Allahu Musta'an. So, we said, angel of mercy, angel of death will come to you even if you're in the toilet. And the angels, with the angel of death helping him, they will come to the toilet as well. So don't be scared. Don't be, saying, I'm in the toilet. No angel will come to me now. Angel of death will be waiting outside. Only angel of mercy. Fine. 12, 15, it should bathing. Should not urinate, we said that. It's forbidden to urinate, excrete in the still water, stagnant water, yes, we said that. It's forbidden, you must remove any impurity from the private parts using water, yes, we said that. When using stones, it is not permissible to use less than 3 stones, yes. Point number 2, it's permissible to use water together with stones, yes, it is not permissible to clean yourself with bones. You must take precautions against not doing anything to touch your clothes and body. Make sure you remove your impurities as a result. When making istinja after urination, it is not permissible to use right hand for holding the penis. Okay, therefore you hold it with your left, or said that. When making istinja after excreting, it is not permissible to use right hand for removing excrement. Said that after making istinja, it is recommended to sprinkle water inside. Okay, sprinkle water. Recommended after you finish your istinja to sprinkle water inside your pants, inside your underwear. This could be done after istinja, or it could be done after wudu. Do you understand me? After you finish the wudu, you do it. Whether this or that. After istinja or after wudu. This would kill the whispering, the shaitan. Okay. After excreting, and you have used your hand for cleaning your the feces with the water, you should remove any bad smell from your hands. It's an etiquette as well. So when you use your hands to clean the feces, remove the bad smell from your hands. Prophet of Allah used to rub it into the dirt on the ground, used to rub it, because the dirt was the best thing, and then put water. So you've got mashallah soap, you've got lots of things. For those who got long nails, cut them. Believe me, if you've got nails not cut, some of that poo will go inside your nails. No matter what you're going to wash your hands with, you're going to smell the stinky of that bad thing of yours. So some of the people, when we pray next to them, there's a poo coming out smell. Why? Because they don't clean their hands properly. Because their nails are what? Long. When their nails are long, the dirt goes inside in between them. So make sure that you are cleaning yourself. طيب. Say غفرانك on leaving. So we said غفرانك, and we said, okay, we have finished, alhamdulillah. That's the how many points we added? 3, 4 points. طيب. Now we come to the aniya, and by which we finish. The aniya means the pot. The aniya. So come to the aniya, please. The last one before the salah. Babul aniya.
Containers and utensils. It is permissible to use all types of containers and utensils, save for gold and silver ones, as it is specifically forbidden to use them for eating or drinking, while they may be used for other purposes. Hudayfa narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Do not drink from gold or silver containers, and do not wear silk or brocade garments, as they are for them in this world and for you in the hereafter."
For them, that means for the disbelievers. So here, don't drink, and there's another narration, don't eat. So don't drink and don't eat in the pots which are made of gold or silver. Don't wear the harir. Harir means the silk. This is for the male. For the female, they're allowed. The female are allowed. Salam.
Salama narrated that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, "The one who drinks from a silver container only gargles into his stomach the fire of hell," recorded by Bukhari and Muslim. However, another narration in Muslim states, "The one who eats or drinks from a silver or gold container." Muslim noted that none of the narrators made any mention of eating or gold except in the narration of Ibn Mushir. Sheikh Al-Bani stated, "This additional information contradicts what has been narrated in a stronger form, although it is correct in its meaning based on what can't be derived from the hadith. This is because eating and gold are greater and more serious issues than drinking and silver, as is obvious."
And of course, there's a hadith of Zayd Muslim, which is to eat in the sihaf, which is the potty. So if you have cutleries, it's called cutleries, or the knife and the spoon and all of that. Yes? all utensils of yours has to be not silver or gold. Lots of spoons we find in the one made of what? Silver. Knives made of silver. And Allah who's them. Haram. Silver and of course gold. Because the gold is, is always mentioned with the silver. Extravagance, and it's not for us. It's for the disbelievers. It's for us on the day of resurrection. On the Jannah, inshallah. Right, this is now, by the way, this title, this heading, is normally being put under the food chapter. The pots, the containers. But it is mentioned here as water, which is used for purification, wudu and ghusl, etc., is usually preserved in these containers. That's why he had mentioned the containers here. Now, so if we summarize what are the rules regarding the container. Rule number 1, it is permissible to use all types of containers, pots for purification purposes. This includes the ones used by the unbelievers, as long as they don't use them for cooking, pig, drinking, alcohol, or any other forbidden acts. So if I use, for example, a container which is that used by the disbeliever, my neighbor, that is, he irrigates his plants with it, no problem. But if I use, for example, his pot for cooking pan, when he cooks in it, I know he's going to cook pig in it, bacon, swine, and all of that, haram, or he drinks with it wine and all of that, then if it is the case, and it is disliked to use them for purification purposes. Disliked, it's not haram, disliked. If you're going to use them, then make sure you clean them properly. Even if they clean them for you, you clean them as well. It is permissible, second rule, to eat or drink in any container pot with the following conditions. Number 1, it should not be a container used by kuffar, unbelievers, as they might cook pigs and drink. So the first point is talking to you about purification. Now we want to be what? Eating and drinking. That's different now. So it is permissible to eat or drink in any container or pot with the following condition. Number 1, it is not a container used by kuffar, as they might cook pig in it or drink alcohol with it. The only exception is when you have no alternative. Where in such case, make sure that it's been washed properly. The scholars have differed in their opinion about whether these containers are pure or impure. It is more likely that they are pure, and the prohibition of use is merely out of disgust. Disgusting. It should not be made of pure gold or silver. And I said here pure gold or silver. But if it's been plated with gold or plated with silver, we say it is allowed, but as long as you don't deceive other people. Because the people are going to say, look at that, it's gold. You're going to say to them, it's only gold plated and all of that. Well, make sure that when you eat with a spoon, big signs hanging there. It is made not from pure gold. And the sheikh said it's okay if it's plated. Make sure you put a big sign, because you're going to deceive other people. So that's why I'm going to ask the Sheikh Al-Albani regarding a watch. I said, Sheikh, watch which is plated with gold. Lots of watch are plated with gold. It's not pure gold. He says to me as an answer, taqwa before fatwa. Subhanallah. Rahmatullah alayhi. On the phone, he says, taqwa before fatwa. And before I give you the fatwa, there's taqwa. If you're going to put a watch which is gold plated, other people, they will not be distinguishing whether it's gold plated or it's going to be pure gold. Unless you hang a big massive sign, it's gold plated, it's not pure gold. And it says halal, you got a big massive thing, explain to the people. So why do you want to do that? So don't put the golden watch, even if it's allowed. That is the plated one. Right. The scholars, they say that the reasons behind forbidding such containers are, number 1, showing off. Number 2, imitation of the kuffar. And number 3, imitating the inmates of the paradise. That's another reason. So you're not allowed to use the containers made of gold or silver because of showing off. Number 2, imitating the kuffar. Number 3, imitating the inmates of paradise. The paradise are the ones who take it, the ones in paradise, the one who's taken from gold and silver. آنية من فضة أكواب من ذهب. It's all even for the people of the paradise. Containers made of more expensive material, that's a very important point, are also impermissible as they involve extravagance. Rubies, jewels. This rule will apply to cutleries as well. If these containers are just plated with gold, as I said, then it is disliked because people might think they are gold. Now, I'm going to give you some useful points regarding eating and drinking and purifications in such containers. Point number one, containers made of copper are permissible to use for eating, drinking, and purification purposes. That's number one. Copper is no problem. Number two, it is not permissible to eat or drink from a container pot that has a notch. Do you understand that? Crack. So if that crack goes from the top to the bottom of that glass, it's not allowed. That cup, the container, is not allowed to drink or eat from that container or that. So if the plate has a chipped, no problem. If it's running, like if it's a hairline crack, it's not allowed. And they found out that all the germs and all the bacteria go into these little things. SubhanAllah. He says what Islam tells us. If you use what the Prophet tells you, you'll be safe. So you're not allowed. It is permissible to use mended containers, pot for all purposes. So that means the crack is filled with a certain substance. This has the scholars' consensus, no difference amongst them. The mending has to be in the following way. So you could, for example, let's say have a cup, you mended it, you fixed it, and you want to fill that. The filling should be silver. Can't be any other. SubhanAllah, bacteria does not grow in silver. And filling should be small. It's not a big thing, it's a little filling. It's not really a big crack. And the filling is used when needed. That means not for decoration purpose. Some people they might have the crack and they love that crack because they're going to have a filling which is going to be decoration purposes. It should not be a notch, not a hairline crack, as the latter is not amendable. So if it's a notch, you could do it like a little crack. But the hairline, it's impossible to amend that. As for purification purposes, the above rules are not applied only for eating and drinking. Only for eating and drinking. Finally, it is recommended to cover the containers and the pots that have food or drink, even by placing a piece of wood on top of them. So here the bottle of water is mashallah got a cap. So if I had in this cup some tea, and I'll leave it for a long time without drinking, so I'll put what? Just like my pen, my key like that, not inside, over the top. So just a pen or a pencil. Just so it doesn't come out like that. Khalas, shaitan will not come inside. So the containers that you put into the fridge, no problem, because they've got a lid. What is the lid? The door of the fridge. Do you understand that? The fridge door is considered to be, so no problem to have the cooking pans to be open without the lid. By this, alhamdulillah, we finished. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and we're going to do the prayer. Fadl.
I had a toilet that's facing the Kaaba, but has a wall behind it. I heard that some scholars said you have to use that toilet.
Sorry. You heard what?
One of the toilets that are facing the Qibla. So I heard some scholars say that if you've got a wall behind it, then you'll have to use that toilet.
I said the scholars differed regarding the issue of that if you are not in the open space, you are in a toilet, which is a wall. You understand me? So it's no problem for them to urinate to the Qibla or you're back to the Qibla. But we said this is not correct. It is incorrect because the saying of the Prophet of Allah is general, where the action of the Prophet of Allah, which Abdullah ibn Umar narrated it, It could be for a reason. It could be the Prophet of Allah couldn't face. It could be the Prophet of Allah didn't know the direction. It could be the Prophet of Allah's specialty for him. So lots of reasons for the actions. But for the saying of the Prophet of Allah is for the general ummah. Don't face the Qibla and don't turn your back to the Qibla. Okay. Even spitting, by the way, towards the Qibla is not allowed. Whether you are having walls, even if you have in the open space, your spit regarding how powerful it is not going to reach the Kaaba, is it? Is it? So whether the wall is there or not a wall there, Prophet don't spit towards the Qibla, for verily the Qibla, if you spit towards it, your spittle will come between your eyes on the day of resurrection. So on the day of resurrection, you find somebody with a spittle in his middle of his eyes, that means he's been spitting towards the Qibla. Now, so the spittle like that, what about the urination? Which one is worse? Urination, passing feces. Now,
Sheikh, so if the toilets within the masjid, do they come under the same rulings?
same ruling. The toilets of the masjid has to be not facing the Qibla or their backs to the Qibla.
I mean, entrance, if you're entering with the left foot and exiting with the right.
It doesn't matter the way how you enter it. It's not when you relieve yourself. When you relieve yourself, you should not be facing. But coming inside the doors doesn't matter. So the toilet, how's it being built? The hole where the poo goes in. How's it being built? When you sit down. So if it is facing the Qibla or you're back towards the Qibla, tilt yourself while you're sitting.
Now what I mean is the status of the toilet. So
It doesn't matter the toilet itself. It's the potty where you urinate.
Yeah.
You understand me? It doesn't matter the door, how's it facing. It doesn't matter where the sink is facing. It's the thing that you urinate in it. Does that make it?
Yeah, no, I understand that. What I'm saying is that the status of the toilet itself. So we're entering with our left foot and exiting with our right. With this, the toilets within the confines of the masjid, does it come under the same ruling then? That because you're in a noble area, which is the masjid, and it's got a toilet area, do we still see it as an area which is not noble, and we enter in left and exit with our right? See what I mean?
I understood you now after the question before. The toilet is a toilet wherever it is, even if it's in the Kaaba. You've got toilets there. The most holy land. Once you enter the toilet, you have to enter with the left. And you come out with the right. That's the Sunnah, Prophet ﷺ. And it is a place of shayateen lives inside the masjid. It's not a place of prayer. Do they pray inside the toilet? It's not allowed. No, Fadal.
Touching the private part with the right hand, does that apply to the marital relations as well?
Very good question. The persons as well, in terms of when he's with his wife and she's with her husband, are not supposed to use the right hand for the private parts. They should be using the left hand. That's a very good question. I never asked this question. So, from that, our Sheikh Al-Albani had prohibited using what these days they ask about when the husband and wife are together, to use such specific organs. If you understand me, I'm not going to mention it because the kids are here. All right, so that is why from there the Sheikh Al-Albani said that this is for the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you're not allowed to touch our private with the right, when we're doing this, same thing. Okay, so I never touched my private parts since I gave the allegiance, the pledge to the Prophet ﷺ. Now, very good. طيب, sister, do not have questions? Pass the papers.
The question not related to the topic. It's regarding Surah when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفَرِّقُوا بَيْنَهُمْ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. So, what is the solution for people who have only one room and have lots of children? How can they separate between their kids?
فرقوا بينهم في المضاجع. Then when they are 10 years old, the kids, they cannot be sleeping, number one, on one bed. Number two, males and female, they should have different rooms. So when they are 10, males, they could share the room, but they have to have separate beds. If it's a bed, a big bed, have to have separate quilts. Do you understand that? So that they don't need to go together. Separate quilts, if it's a big bed, separate beds, then no problem, it'll be better. Boys and girls will be separate. But when they are younger than that, there's no problem. Girls and boys, no problem. Okay?
So the solution is regarding the people who have only one room and they have
You can't have one room, when girls and boys and the husband and the wife and as well.
No, I mean just one room for the kids.
For boys and girls,
Yeah.
and over the 10, God help them. I would say that you should really take some of these girls into their room as well. It should be separation. You could, for example, make a special, a small separation by a curtain. Do you understand that? I'm saying that because the girls, when they sleep, they might expose their legs and themselves. They should not be in front of the boys. Now. طيب, no questions? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. نبدأ إن شاء الله.